Let's talk about the sprint planning. The sprint plan is where the Scrum team estimates the stories that are in the product backlog, but they also estimate the stories for the particular sprint. So the first day of the sprint, the Scrum team will discuss about the time schedule for the sprint. So that means their availability and understand the stories that are in the product backlog. Normally, the first sprint plan is used to estimate all the stories in the product backlog. So basically, they give like a rough estimation of all these stories. So there is a basis for how much effort the team has to put in overall for the sprint. It can be used to calculate a certain time target for how long this project could last if they know the team effort. For each sprint plan, a more detailed discussion will focus on the stories that are selected for the particular sprint, and product owner plays here an important role to explain additional information that from questions that the team may have for these stories. So to estimate software, it's important to understand what are the components that are involved in this software feature. Typically you have to understand the front end, and then you have to understand what's part of the back end. And in here there are some design components. So maybe a UX design team have actually put together some layout to how it would look like, and what are the different user interface components that are involved. And then for the backend, you have to understand what are the database and business logic that are part of that particular feature, right? So the front end, you have displays, you have views, and for the back end, you have the database and the model or logic. So if you split it up in these two areas, and then estimate each of them and then add that estimate together, then you may reach to a closer realistic estimate than if you just look at only the front end. When the team do the estimation, they don't estimate on time. So people have a very bad way of looking at time. So nobody can really estimate time precisely. In Scrum, it's better to estimate on effort, and effort is related to a certain number. So the team will define how difficult a certain task is based on the number that they play out in their estimation game. So Scrum Poker is a tool that is used to estimate these tasks, and you have the numbers from 0 to 100 given in this range that is shown in this picture. Now 0 is too easy, right? It's already done, and 1 is very easy. 5 is so, right? And 20 is difficult. 40 is extremely difficult. 100 is very, very difficult, right? And question mark means that you need more information. You don't know really what to estimate this particular task with, because you need more information about it. And the coffee cup, it means that you need a break, right? So these estimation activities, so the sprint plan, can take a few hours. So sometimes you may need to have a break once in a while, just to get on to them, to refresh your mind. There are also some apps available online. You can install this app. The icon that I show here on the top, the blue icon, actually is one of the apps that have the same numbers as in the cards, and that makes it possible for the team to just use the mobile app to estimate. When the team member evaluates a story, the member will try to understand all the aspects of this story, including the display layout, the data flow, the display to the back end, and the logic to make these features work. So with that in mind, each member select a card from the pile, play their estimate, and the higher the number, the more complex the story will be to code. Now each member have their own view of how complex this is. So the team has to discuss and work together to come to a common understanding of what has to be done to finish this story. So if one plays a very high card, the rest of the team member will ask, why did you play so high card? What do you think that is involved in this? And they will explain, we have to code this, we have to do this. And another team member may play a lower card, and then they will agree on which card to go for. So how complex is this? Given that everybody plays a role to complete these stories, right? So and a certain player, a team member who plays a high card, it may be because there's a certain part of this task that he or she find so complex that he needs to learn or study more about it, while another team member might find it very easy and can say, okay, if you do the front end of that part, I can do the business logic, for example, if that's too complex. So they can work together, and then they come to agreement of a number that may be, let's say, one team member play 40 and the other one play 13. Maybe they come to agreement of playing 20. So 20 would be the estimate for that story, for example. When the team have to start on a sprint, so let's say we have a sprint of 5 days, they also have to commit to how many days they are available to work during that sprint. So it can be that some of them have a day off, or they have a planned sick day, or something like that. Then they have lesser time available to work with the rest of the team, right? So with that helps the team to estimate how much time that they would be spending working on these activities. So in this case, we have the team members here: John, Lisa, Alan, Mary, and Thomas, and the total number of days, man days available, is the sum of all the days that they commit to, which is 22 days. So on the sprint backlog, maybe the team have selected the cards on the left hand side before that the sprint started, right? And they estimated that they were able to complete all those cards. Now at the end of the sprint, we see that instead of 26 points in total, they actually only completed 18 points. So all the green cards on the top were the ones that they completed. And then there was one that was almost done. So when it's almost done, then it's not done, right? So that means that they have to move that to the next sprint and then work on the next sprint with these additional cards plus whatever they can take from the product backlog. So in this case, the actual velocity becomes 18. Now, the team performance and focus factor is used to work around with the point system that comes out of the Scrum Poker, so the estimation with the points, which is then given by the velocity, so the number of stories that they finish actually relates to the points, the total number of points that they had estimated initially. So taken from the last sprint, the focus factor can be given by the actual velocity divided by the man days that they worked, right? So in this case, we had 18 story points and 25 man days, so that's 72%. So for estimating the next sprint, it's now possible to look at how many man days can we commit to the next sprint. In this case, we had 22 man days, and we then multiply that with 72%, and that gives us 15.84, so 15 story points. So in this case, we can now estimate that the team is able to finish 15 story points based on the performance that they did last sprint. But as the team works better and better together, this performance can be increased, right? So maybe they can take more points next time. So if the overall story points is too big, you can break them down to tasks and assign a set of story points to the subtask. So that means that then the subtask would then have a lower story points, and summing all this up will be the total of the overall story points. So this may be an activity the team will be doing during that sprint plan in case the story estimates seem too risky to complete with the sprint.